Good people of YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and many of you know the watches that I've got in my collection. You know that I've got a core group, and I also buy watches that I like to review on the channel in order to get a full picture as an owner. But what about all the watches that I've sold that none of you know about? So like, which watches have I sold? Why did I sell them? And what have they taught me about watches in general and about myself? I feel like this aspect of the watch hobby is often overlooked because, yes, as much as you can learn about someone by seeing what they own, I think you can learn almost just as much by looking at what they've sold and why they've sold it. And I've been a watch guy for years before I started the channel, and I've owned and sold a bunch of watches that I've never talked about with all of you. So I wanted to share all this with you so you can get to know me better and the lessons that I've learned the hard way and the expensive way, I suppose. So in this video, I'm going to list every single watch that I've sold or has exited my collection, which is over 50. I'll get into the many lessons that I've learned as a result and how all of this has shaped me into the watch guy that I am now, because selling all these watches has been a critically important and beneficial experience that I think everyone should go through. So anyway, let's get into it. So before we get into my watch journey / history and then also what I've learned from selling all these watches, here is a full list of all the watches that I've sold / gifted in roughly chronological order, starting from the very beginning in one breath. So yeah, no, I'm not planning on dying today, so yeah, but anyway, here he goes. Tag Heuer Carrera, a 7 Friday, actually, I can't believe I forgot that I even owned one of those. Squale 50 Atmos, a Frederic Constant World Timer, a Shinola watch, and a Filson watch. Rolex Explorer 2, Sinn 104, the original Blue Alpinist limited edition, the US version. The Omega Seamaster 300 Professional, the one that I rebought. Zelos Mako, Grand Seiko SBGM 221, Nomos Tangente 38, Seiko Turtle SRP 773, Hamilton Kaki Field, Zinu 1, Seiko Tuna SBBN 031, Fortis Amity 18. Man, I miss that watch, I really do. Sinn 556, the NTH Catalina, Seiko SPB 117, the Black Alpinist, Seiko SPB 069, the enamel dial one, such a good looking watch, that one. Seiko SSC 813 Panda Laurier Hydra Series 2, Omega X33, oh god, that watch, I wish I still had that one, but it makes sense I sold it. Anyway, Steinhardt Ulco Edition, Citizen Nighthawk, Brew Metric, Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue, Zelos SF40, Tudor Black Bay 58 925, Islander ISL 69, Grand Seiko SBGT 241, Tresca Venturer GMT, that's a good one. Black Bay Pro, Grand Seiko SBGA 387 Kirazuri, that was a tough one. Alkenweiss P104, Longines Spirit Zultime 39, the Black Bay 41 Monochrome, Seiko Marine Master 300 SLA 021, Seiko Alpinist GMT, Seiko Field GMT, the Tissot 1938 Salmon Dial, the Citizen Zenshin, then a SPB 313, the White Dial Slim Willard. And then I've also gifted 2 watches, as far as I remember, the Timex Marlin to my uncle and the Baltic Aquascaf to my cousin. And it's a long list because I've always been into watches. When I was tiny, I actually got to choose a gift for myself, and I chose this exact watch over here, and yeah, obviously it doesn't work right now, and I still can't believe I have it. But my journey ramped up around 2008-ish, and then I officially fell off the deep end in 2013. Then my most pivotal year in watches was 2018, because that year I bought 18 watches, which to me now feels absolutely insane, and I got out of that run because I realized, wow, I'm getting bored of really awesome watches really quickly, and that's just messed up. I mean, time to let's step back and dial it down a bit. So yeah, looking back at your journey is fun because you can see how tastes evolve regardless of whether or not you sell your watches. I've had various watches, but my first watch guy watch was my Nomos Tangente back in 2016, and I had been looking at that watch for a very long time. I was absolutely fascinated by it, the dial, the design, the in-house movement. Still an awesome watch. I do miss it kind of. And actually in those very early days, I bought an IWC Aquatimer that I returned the very next day, which is a whole story just because Tourneau is just awful. But anyways, looking back, I'm glad that I did return it because at that time, I definitely did not appreciate the awesome ratcheting bezel because I wasn't a dive watch guy, which just sounds absolutely bizarre knowing what I'm like right now. But Anyways, I think it's time to get an echo timer, isn't it? Ugh, I really want one. But in order to become a dive watch guy, I had to take a chance on a type of watch that I wasn't particularly familiar with. Divers at that time, and who knows, maybe dive watches wouldn't have worked well for me and it would have been time to sell those divers off, but I would have known for sure because I had the experience and I knew about divers. In the end, you don't know what you don't know. Simple yet very critical words to live by. But the pendulum's kind of swinging because now, mainly because of my The Citizen, I'm making a push back into fixed bezel three-handers. So yeah, maybe now my collection will see a resurgence of dressier kind of three-hander watches alongside my divers. Unlikely, but time will only tell because, and also I wouldn't mind if that happened at all. I do like three-handers. So before we start the lessons, the main reason why I sell watches in the first place is because I feel guilty about watches that I know that I just don't wear or won't wear very much at all. Of course, the more expensive a watch is, the more guilt I feel, so they're in a more precarious position. Now, first up, were all the watches that I sold off mistakes, even regrettable mistakes? Absolutely not, because through all the watches that I've sold, I've been able to learn so much about all kinds of different watches, and that made me a more informed watch enthusiast. Because now I've owned and experienced all kinds of watches: chronographs, dive watches, dress watches, field watches, Swiss, Japanese, German, quartz, manual wind, automatic, cheap, expensive, micro brands, all kinds of stuff. And with all this experience, I can now make better decisions about purchasing watches because I know what I like, what I don't like, what works and what doesn't work with me. Of course, this doesn't guarantee a perfect buying record every single time and that every watch is perfect, because in the end, you can only really get a good sense of a watch after owning said watch for a long while, and that's again why I buy the watches that I review here. Watches can surprise you for better or for worse. Next up, I think it's good to get over that initial fear of selling and the fear of the unknown, but also the fear of missing a watch after maybe making a mistake. Because I'm sure many of you have a watch or two that you know you really ought to sell, but you just can't make that final step. Yeah, this was something that held me back for a very long time, and it took a while to get over. But I saw that a few months after selling my first batch of watches, I didn't really miss any of those watches that I sold. I mean, every once in a while, I think, oh, would be nice to see them again, and I remember them fondly, but never with any sort of angst, because in the end, I know that it was the right thing to do. It was the right time and the right decision to make. But like I said before, you can't have a perfect watch, and also you can't have a perfect record. I mean, I missed my Seamaster 300 intensely for years after selling it. And then last year, I finally convinced myself to rebuy this watch, and it was my first ever rebuy. And I am still so very happy, and I actually rebought my second ever watch, the Sinn 556, and it's not the same story because it is on the sell list. Well, after I record some B-roll of it. But all this buying and selling made me slow down and truly appreciate my watches, and the only reason my collection is as big as it is right now is mainly because of the channel. In the end, I'm still spending my own money on these watches, so I'm not gonna be wasting it on watches I don't like, but my collection would undoubtedly look different without a channel. It would be quite a bit smaller, and also, that's also why I want to consolidate at this point right now. Next up, I learned that I shouldn't put too much importance on sentimentality, because in the end, the memories, the photos, and the experiences of the watch remain, and the moment I wore the watch in has passed, but I can still look back at that moment in that watch with fondness. That said, there's definitely a place for sentimentality with watches. My Pelagos, my Speedy, and some other watches as well are very, very special, and realistically, I shouldn't still own my Speedy because I really don't wear it all too much, but again, it is just very special to me, so it will always be part of my core. And actually, just to hone in on that idea, if you buy a bunch of watches the way I did in 2018, it might not be the best idea to buy many of them, at least for marking occasions, because that's just one extra hindrance when it comes to selling a watch that you know that you should sell. And given the fact that I'm a sentimental guy, for me, watches mean a lot to me, so connecting a watch with an occasion was just an extra hurdle, and I don't want to deal with that anymore. And if you don't buy very many watches, then maybe buying a watch to mark an occasion will work for you. But for me, I want to wear the watches that are special to me for those special occasions to make that watch that much more special to me. And this is something that I wasn't really able to do in 2018 just because I always had a new watch on my wrist and none of them really could rack up any special moments. And next I learned that I can admire and appreciate watches without owning them. And this one was a big one just because a big reason why I ended up buying 18 watches in 2018 was because I thought if I love a watch that I see, I need to buy it to be able to love it. And yeah, it was fun doing that, but not all watches are long-term winners and many of them really could have been enjoyed from a distance without spending actual money on them. And that's why this year I haven't really bought any watches for myself just because nothing really screamed out at me that much. Oh, and I also learned that I shouldn't buy watches for a purpose, meaning, oh, I need to buy this watch for this particular situation that I might find myself in. I've seen from experience, I just wear whatever watch I want to wear at whatever time. So even if there is another watch that will make more sense for a particular situation, it doesn't matter. So there you have it. Let me know what your experiences have been like regarding selling watches, and until the next video, good day.